Welcome to another edition of Conversations of the Heart. As always, it is your boy T Till here. Have a very special guest in the building today, Mr. Justin Belt, fellow podcaster, the Pep Talk podcast, and we're going to be talking everything from fatherhood, marriage, manhood. We're going to get into all of that, but first, I just wanted to introduce Justin here and let him tell you in his words who he is. So, for the people who don't know, what do you do? Who is Justin Belt?
T Till, man, thanks for having me on the pod. I appreciate it. I'm Justin, Coach J. We go by a lot of different names, but I'm a high school English teacher. I'm a life coach. I'm also a published author and a podcaster. A husband of 20 years, father of 5 kids.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Father of 5 kids, man. We do it all. Lunch lady, all that stuff.
Awesome, man. So knowing that you're a fellow podcaster, we'll get to that in a second. But let's talk a little bit about this fatherhood, man. Let's talk about your fatherhood journey. Everybody's fatherhood journey is different. But I like to ask this one question to all the fathers that I speak to. And it's when you found out for the first time that you were going to be a father, how did you react? And what was that process like going through your mind? Everybody's different. Some people shook, scared, some people happy, some people confused, some people just like, hey, I don't know what I'm about to do with this. Right. So what was your first instinct? Like, how did you feel?
So I remember this like it's plain as day. My wife came out of the bathroom with a test in her hand, and she looked at me and she said, "I'm pregnant." And I was like, "Oh, bleep." And she said, I looked at her like, "How did this happen?" And she looked at me like, "You know how this happened,
bro. You know you was there."
Yeah. It was very much a, oh crap, like for real, like. But I mean, I just had like that brief moment of like, what in the world? And then I was just over the moon, like texting everybody, letting everybody know that it was crazy. It was crazy. It was frightening, but it was one of the best memories of my life, especially now that she's graduating. That time goes by so fast, man. It just blows by.
Wow, man. And congratulations to her on graduating. She's going to college? Is that what it is?
Yep. Yeah, she has earned herself pretty much a full ride to a private SMU, Southern Methodist University down here in Dallas. So proud of her, man. She's done the thing, and now she's receiving the benefits of it.
Big shout out to her, and all the best to her. And congratulations on that scholarship. It's so easy on the pockets for you, brother. So you are reaping the benefits too. You're reaping the benefits too. Yes. And listen, I see the happy graduation in the background. You were a real happy father with that one.
Yes, sir.
Please, the full ride, brother, full ride. Oh, listen, that is a blessing. So congratulations to the whole family, man. So shout out to the wife too. So now the journey of fatherhood is different for everybody. There is no manual. I always like to say, and I don't have kids, but I know many fathers, and what they tell me is that there is no manual for it. It looks different for everybody and for each kid. The journey could be completely different. So you said, and how many kids do you have? 5 on it. You got 5 on it. Yes, that is true. You did something. You got 5 on it. So, sir, you got a lot of experience. You got you're a veteran in this game of 5. I think 2 is a good number, but you got 5, right? So was it always something of you that you said you wanted 5 kids, or you wanted like 4 kids, 5 kids, 6 kids? Like, is that something that you always wanted, or was it just like, yo, listen, things happen?
So No, I no. So like for me, fatherhood was never something that I prayed for. I just
Hmm.
always assumed that at some point I'd be a father. And I thought, like in my high school yearbook, I think I wrote that I would be a father of two kids. But my wife comes from a family of six. She's number
Mm.
five. She's number five of six. And so her having a big family, that's what she knew. For me, I was adopted. And so in my adoptive family, my siblings are much older than I am. Like
Mm.
my oldest brother, by the time I came along, he had already joined the Coast Guard. He was out of the house. Um,
Wow.
so I grew up very much almost like an only child. Uh,
Wow.
so the idea of having a big family, it never computed for me. But I knew when I got married that I didn't want to have only one child because I thought that that
Right.
was cruel to that child. Um, but it just so happened that God had it in the plans for us to have five.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I look at it now. It's cool because they have each other.
Right.
Even if knock on wood, something happened to us, they still have each other. And
Right.
I think that's a gift for us, but it's also a gift for them.
That's that's beautiful, man. And you have a mix, right?
Yeah.
So raising daughters and raising sons could be different. For
Mm-hmm.
some. Um, so I know being a girl dad, because daddy's little girl, it seems like that never changes, right? Um, so what would you say your journey was with raising daughters? We'll start with daughters first. What was the journey like for you raising the girls?
I think for me, raising girls was has been pretty easy. Um, Me growing up, I, you know, played sports and everything, but I've always been more of a feelings centered person, always in touch with my emotions, like even from an early age. And so
Mm,
raising girls, I can relate to the emotional aspect of it. Like that part is really easy for me. Um,
mm,
because I was the artsy guy. I wrote the poetry and you know all that stuff. So that part with raising girls has been easy for me. Now there are things as they get older that mom takes over and mom plays a larger role. But I understand the mood swings because I have them. I understand when the emotions feel too big and you don't really know how to express them.
mm,
I can help them through those things because that was kind of me, growing up. Um,
mm,
that was yeah, and I mean, I know we'll get into the whole masculinity standpoint of it,
mm,
but because I was such an emotion centered boy,
mm,
oftentimes and even into adulthood, I often had a hard time equating to what that meant for me as a man.
mm. Wow. And so when you say that you were the artsy guy, you used to write poetry and and all those things. And so you were a person who was already tapped into your emotional intelligence at an early age. And then when you get married, bro, you wonder why you got five kids, brother. You was smooth, brother. Like you was out here writing poetry and all that stuff, bro. You talking about two
Hey, I
kids, but you,
mean,
you should have known you was headed for five. You should have known that from early. You should have saw that coming, bro. You should
I
have saw
mean,
that
listen,
coming.
listen,
You was outside writing poetry
listen.
early. Jeez.
A part of my life coaching practice is about mindset, and my
Mm-hmm.
mindset growing up always was, brother, you a Casanova, so you got to be careful who you unleash them words on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you unleashed them on the right one. And five later,
Hey,
you's doing it all
I
right.
mean, hey, I can't say nothing.
So, but with that being said, with raising daughters, what was something that you made sure that you wanted to instill in them?
So it was important to me from a young age that my daughters know that any man who tries to come into their lives to eventually take them from me would have an impossible standard to me.
Mm.
Now, with 5 kids, I can't always take them on dates and everything, but you know, we have discussions. Um, if I take them out, I get them an icy or I get them some candy or something like that, and I tell them I love them a lot because I don't want them bringing some dude into the house who does not meet the standard that I set. And
Mm.
so, even when they were babies, they were always my princesses. I always made sure that they knew that, they want to cuddle with dad, yo, come cuddle with dad.
Mm.
Um, if I can do for them, I make sure I do for them because I need them to understand that it's a standard.
Mm.
Um, and I know dudes because I was a dude. I know dudes, and and if a dude is trying to come at you and if a dude is trying to get at you, and you can look at him and you can see that he's not measuring up to me, then you need to just tell him to keep on going.
Mm. Mm. I like that. So just making sure that they have a level of standards for
Mm-hmm.
themselves. And you wanted to make sure that you set the bar pretty high. Um, and to not be easily impressed by things. Right.
Right. Right.
Because that's the I won't say arguments, but like I see them all on social media. Things that women want, right? He has to be able to fly me here. He has to be able to fly me there. He has to be able to do XYZ, provide certain things, right? I noticed that's a thing, providing things. And so I always caution, and I understand, first of all, yes, of course, providership is of course providing a home, providing, keeping the lights on. I get that part. I just always like to caution when women talk about things. And I understand
Yeah.
about soft life and I understand the luxuries of life. Believe me, I do. And but when people and certain men also have such things at their disposal, women have to be very discerning about just because they have these things, who they let into their life, right? Because you shouldn't put a dollar amount on, you know, who you decide to date. So, like, if you can't have this, then because there are some men that can afford this and that, and they're absolute nightmares. They will use that to their advantage. And, man, they will use that to their advantage, right? Because they have certain things at their disposal. And then you become disposable,
Right.
you
Right.
know? Yeah. So I always say, even with my friends and just for people, if they have daughters, I just tell them, like, yo, just be careful, just careful, right? Look for other things as well, intangibles, right? Look at certain things that, his character, that's a big thing. Character is
Yeah.
huge. Character is huge when it comes to dating, man. Like, just because a man has money don't mean he has character. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that a man who has money, and this is not a generalization, but it's just what I've been able to observe. A man who has money gets lazy with his emotions. Um,
Ooh.
he 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 can believe that the things that he can provide more than makes up for the emotion that the woman wants. And so then
Mm.
when she gets used to getting the things, what use does she have for your emotions at that point? I mean, like whether you're emotionally engaged or not, if I can buy you Prada and if I can buy you Gucci, why do you care if I love you or not?
Mm. Mm. That's a fact. And people substitute the money for emotional intelligence or fidelity, um, for a lot of different things. It's more so like I'm buying you.
Mm-hmm.
You do what I, and that could become very abusive. And that's the one thing that we don't want our friends, family, daughters to get mixed into is abuse and just things like
Facts.
that. Unfortunately, I hear too many stories regarding these type of things. Unfortunately, so I'm really happy that it seems like you're really raising amazing daughters. But translating that into sons, with you having the emotional intelligence that you have, It seems like you're very cognizant about mental health. So when it comes to boys and raising boys, it could be scary in this day and age between all the stuff that's going on out there, right? And men having issues with communication and
Mm-hmm.
expression,
Mm-hmm.
right? And suicides are double women at this point in time, right? In men. And you realize that men are having more health problems, heart attacks, high blood pressure. And a lot of that is because up here, it's like everything that's in our heart, we don't express it for a lot of us. And so by the time we come to become an adult, we have years of high blood pressure, heart problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we do things to kind of when problems arrive, we like, okay, I'm gonna smoke it away, drink it away, sex it away,
Yeah.
I'm gonna work it away.
Yeah.
And these are things that's unhealthy for us, right? And we don't express our feelings in a healthy way for a lot of us. So raising boys, how do you, I guess, impart what you've learned from growing up and having emotional intelligence at an early age? How do you go about imparting that into your boys?
So I'll say that when I found out that our second child was a boy, I was overwhelmed with a deep sense of fear.
Mm,
Um, I was afraid, man, because, you know, as someone who struggled with the whole idea of what manhood and masculinity is like, I don't even know if I'm a man. How am I supposed to raise another man? And then
mm,
on top of that, there's also the level of raising a black man. Like, what? How am I supposed to do that?
mm,
How am I supposed to do that? And it's been it's been amazing, but there are also still times where I'm, afraid for my boys.
mm,
Um, I have a son who is going to be 14 or 15. I can't remember which one. Um, he's a hardcore athlete. He loves sports, and he's good. He's really really good. I can't relate to being really really good at sports.
mm.
Arts were my thing.
Right.
However, I'm the loudest dude in the stands cheering for him and
Mm-hmm.
coaching him. However,
Mm,
my coaching for him doesn't come from the physical aspect of it. My coaching for him comes from how's your mind? How's your
mm-hmm.
heart? Like those are two questions that I ask him almost every morning, dude. How's your heart? How's your head? Because I
Mm,
want to know what you're thinking. I want to know what you're feeling. And even though, he's at that stage in life where he doesn't talk a lot about feelings. That's hard
uh-huh.
for him. I
Yeah.
get it. Even though he often, just says, "Oh, I'm fine." Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Most times I don't press because I don't want there to be any sense of trauma around dad continuing to ask me about my feelings so that now I start making stuff up just to appease him. No, dude.
Right.
If you say you're fine, I'm going to trust that you're fine until I start seeing the signs that you're not fine. Then dad's going to sit you down and I'm going to press you.
Mm,
Um, my other son, he's 10. He's artsy. Dude is an amazing artist. He loves anime. He can draw his behind off. Um, he's not as deep into sports as his older brother. He
mm-hmm.
likes to he likes to play soccer, but he's not, that super
Right.
competitive dude. I understand him. I understand him a lot more than I do my oldest son. However, I, you know, 5 kids, you discover that there are so many ways to connect to each child. And what works with one child is not going to work with the same child, regardless of
Mm,
whether they're the same gender or not.
mm,
Um, and so it's a lot of trial and error. And my wife and I, we sit back and we laugh sometimes. Like, I wonder, you know, what child number 3 is going to have to go to therapy for that child number 1 didn't have to go to therapy for, or
right. Right.
um, you never know. But again, it's a blessing because as I've become more secure in the type of man that I am, I
Mm,
think I'm better able to impart that into my sons. Like we can talk about the injustices that Black men are more likely to face, and like with this being June being Men's Mental Health Awareness Month,
Yep,
that's
absolutely.
big. That's big. Um, so when they ask me, Dad, do you ever get sad? Oh yeah, oh yeah. Like, Dad, do you ever just want to quit your job? Oh yeah. Let me talk to you about it. Let me tell you about it. I don't want to withhold, yeah, I don't want to withhold anything from them about who I am that will keep them from becoming who they're destined to be. And so from my vantage point as the gatekeeper to what their pathway is, it's important to me that I allow them all the access to me that they need to make every decision that they need to make in life, whether dad is messed up or whether dad has gotten it right. And for me, that is equal across all five of my kids. I want them to have ultimate access to me so that they don't have to go looking for access with anybody else, because that's where the danger comes in. I want them to see the good, the bad, and ugly about me so that we can talk about it and we can talk about the implications for their lives so that they don't have to go out into the streets and get answers, man, because we have so many kids in the streets that are getting answers, and they are answers that are they're warped. They're answers that are based in false narratives. They are answers that are steeped in people who don't know who they are. Like there's so many false answers. So if I can keep the answers from dad, honest and clear and transparent, then I feel good about the kids that I'm sending off into the world.
I like that a lot. Because everybody does have different opinions. Everybody was raised differently, you know. So the fact that you want to be that example for them, you and your wife want to be those examples for them that they can come to you guys with anything, right? And a lot of times kids don't agree. They just don't, especially when they get to a certain age.
Yep.
They're not gonna agree on a lot of different things. But the one thing I will say is kids don't forget something that was planted. And even if they don't agree right now, it could be 6 years down the line.
Come on.
All of a sudden, oh, yo, hey, did my dad, did my mom, dad, something just like that. Like, and he's like, oh, I get it. Right? Because you planted the seeds early.
Yeah.
And so as long as you plant the seeds, man, like they gonna be okay no matter what. Even if they don't like it now, even if they don't see it now, because they know everything. Kids know everything. You know how that goes. we knew everything back then too. You go through the phases, and so, but as long as you have planted seeds, which you guys have planted, so it seems like some amazing seeds in them, they're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
So when it comes to manhood, I know you said that process of being adopted, right? It's always interesting, like when like when I hear people being adopted, because I always wonder, like, depending on the situation, if they wanted to know who their birth parents was, how was that process, right? Did you ever go meet your birth parents, and how did your adopted parents take that stuff, and how has being adopted impacted your life?
So I podcasted about this in the episode that dropped today. I was talking about fatherhood. And so yesterday was kind of special. Yesterday at church, we had a suits and sneakers themes for the guys. My biological dad came up to visit for my daughter's graduation, and he bought us all some shoes. Now, he normally buys shoes for the kids, and I'm good with that. But this time he looked up and he saw me without shoes. He said, "Why didn't you get shoes?" I said, "Man, you took care of the kids. Like that's the most important." He said, "We're not leaving until you go back and get some shoes." All right. So we went back, and I saw a pair. I was having a hard time looking, and he said, "Dude," he pulled me aside. He said, "Dude, y'all have been going through a hard time. Let me get you some shoes." And so I went and I found a pair of Jordans. I've never had a pair of Jordans. I've always refused. I'm a sneakerhead, but I don't like putting money down on sneakers.
Got
Um,
it.
and he bought me this pair of Jordans, so I wore them with my suit on Sunday. And I also had my camera. My adoptive father is a photographer. Um, and so
Nice.
I put this picture up on my Instagram that had the camera and the shoes in it. And I was explaining why this picture encapsulates so much of my life. Um, so I met my biological dad when I was about uh, 20, 21, 22.
Mm.
My biological mom recently passed of pancreatic cancer back in May.
My condolences.
Um, thank you. But I'm realizing how blessed I was to have them both because before I knew that I was adopted, I knew that all of me did not fit in the family that I was raised in.
Mm.
And I never understood why. Like my adoptive family, my adoptive dad, he taught me what it meant to be punctual, like what it meant to have a sense of duty, what it meant to be loyal. And yet, even with all of those things, there was this part of me, man, that I knew didn't fit here, and I didn't know where it fit until I met my biological family. And when I met my
Wow.
dad's side of the family, things just started to make so much sense for me. And I think now, at 42 years of age, I am more of a whole man now than I've been at any other point in my life because I can look at myself and I can see,
Wow.
I can itemize where parts of me come from. Like, when I was dating my wife, if I said, I'm going to pick you up at 7, I'm pulling up at her apartment at
Mm.
6 o'clock, and I'm going to wait until 6:45 to go knock on the door and say, hey, I'm here. I got that from my adoptive dad.
Nice.
My sense of humor and my love of brightly colored sneakers. That sounds really weird, but I got that from my biological dad because he loves brightly colored. He loves brightly colored things. Um,
Ah,
so I can see all of these different parts of me and how they fit on either side, but also how they've come together and how they've melded. Um, and man, I feel more secure in my manhood now than I felt at any other part of my life. And it's because I know where I come from.
wow.
Like, I remember sitting in my biological grandfather's, when he died. This was, man, probably a couple of decades ago now almost. And by the time I met him, he had advanced stage Parkinson's. And so he couldn't really, talk and all this stuff. But hearing people talk about the stuff that he liked to do as a young man, I'm sitting in the church and I'm like, dude, these are all the things that I love to do now. Like
Wow.
I'm practically a mirror image of this man that I never really got a chance to know. And it was just so.
Wow.
Um, and so you talk about manhood, masculinity, knowing where you come from is big. And it's been so big for me.
Mm.
Um, and I'm so thankful that I know the parts of me and how they make up the kind of man that I am.
Wow. And that's powerful now that, you said now being in your 40s, you feel complete,
Yeah.
which is an amazing feeling, by the way, right? And did you ever get the answers that you were looking for, I would say, from your biological parents or father?
So I did get the story from my biological father, but one of my biggest regrets is that I never got it from my biological mother. Um, we never got a chance to have that discussion. And I remember when I found out that she was sick, I'd always meant to call and have that discussion.
Mm.
And right around the time I was working up, the courage to have it, I got the call that she had passed.
Oof.
And yeah, it broke me. Um, yeah, it broke me. But also taking solace in the fact that she loved me enough to realize that what she could offer me at that point was not enough. Um, that's the piece that I take in it, and
Wow.
that's kind of like that's my comfort blanket.
Wow. So I guess so in your eyes, it's like, she gave me the gift of being with a family, right? That had the ability and the capacity to possibly what she couldn't.
Yeah,
And so you have to be okay with not getting the closure that you needed, but rather you chose to get the closure yourself, kind of from your perspective, in a sense. Which I think in all facets of life, sometimes getting the closure we think we want, sometimes we have to be okay with kind of just getting the closure ourselves and just closing
yeah,
certain chapters on our own, right? Because
yeah.
you may never get the truth from people, right? So sometimes you have to be okay with being your own closure. So that's pretty powerful. That you can, whether you did view it that way, so you can move on with your life. Uh, so wow, and I know that somebody's probably out there going through that right now and probably needs to hear that too. So I'm glad that you touched on that too, because adoption is a beautiful thing, but there are complications with that process,
Mm-hmm.
right? With the child, kids need homes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the adoption is beautiful because the children need homes, um, but once they get older, questions,
Mm-hmm.
right? And sometimes when you want the answers to the questions, sometimes the adoptive parents don't even take it well
Yeah,
because they feel like it's more because they feel like, well, am I not doing enough? Is it
yeah.
me? Why do they need more, right, than what I can provide, right? And it could be heartbreaking for the adoptive parents, from their perspective.
Right.
But from a child's perspective, like you said, you always felt like something was missing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
something just wasn't completing, right? And that's because of the questions. And you're right. So, man, that I really liked how you were able to go about that, and even just being able to express yourself like that to your father. That was a beautiful thing. Well, I mean, like your biological father, that you were able to have that conversation with him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Beautiful. So, when it comes to manhood, now that you've experienced, you know, things with your biological as well as your adoptive, and now you have sons, what is I think, your final answer to this manhood question? What is manhood? What does that look like for you?
So this sounds really reductive, but for me, manhood is a choice to love, to be responsible, to be accountable, and to be present.
Mm, wow.
Like I could wake up one morning and say, "Yo, I'm sick of being a man. I'm gonna go back to being a teenager," right? Um, or I'm gonna choose to be emotionally distant from my kids. It's a choice, man, and it's not always easy just because it's expected of you. And also, accountability to me is not going to look like accountability to you is going to look.
Right.
It's going to look so different for each man. But I think across the board, if we could agree, if every man could agree that being a man requires that I love, that I know that I'm responsible for the people in my life, that I'm
Mm-hmm.
accountable, that I'm accountable not just to them, but I'm accountable to me.
Mm,
Like, when am I looking in the mirror and saying, dude, you're not living up to it?
mm,
And then if I say I'm not living up to it, what am I gonna do to get myself back on track? And then if we can all agree that being a man requires that we be present, and it's not a physical presence. It is a mental presence. It's an emotional presence. It's a spiritual presence. And I
mm.
know that requires a lot of energy. Bruh, it requires a lot.
Yes.
However, However, our families are begging for that kind of manhood. Our
mm,
communities are begging
mm,
for that kind of manhood.
mm.
I'm a teacher, man. My students are begging to see that kind of manhood. And when we are not showing up, when we're not showing up, man, societies and systems begin to break down.
Yes.
I'm fortunate. My wife, every night, she will ask me how I'm doing.
Mm,
I have guys in my life who will just text me, dude, how are you doing? Because what I understand, what I understand is that for me to walk out this manhood thing authentically and real, for me to choose to be a man, I need people who are walking with me. I
mm,
need I need people like when I'm not walking my path right, they're not just gonna call me or text me. They're gonna come drag me out of where I am. Like
mm,
they're gonna beat the door down, drag me from where I am, and get me back on the path. They're gonna
mm,
look at me and say, "Dude, you are not showing up. Like, what's your goals? What's your dreams? What's your plans? So how is it serving any of that?" And
mm,
you know, so many of us don't want that type of microscopic accountability
mm.
and responsibility. But for me, I found, man, that it makes me so much better because even when I am trapped in my thoughts and I can't find any way out of the things that I'm thinking about, when my wife says, "Baby, what's on your mind? What are you
Mm-hmm.
thinking about?"
Mm.
She refuses to take nothing for an answer.
Wow.
She will sit there in the silence with me until I'm finally able to find the words to explain how I'm feeling.
Mm. That's powerful.
That is, man, it is. When my guys that I call brothers will not accept and I'm okay. That
And
is,
that's big.
ain't it, man? Come on.
That's big because I'm okay, I'm okay. We will say that until you get sick, die. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm good. I'm good. I'm okay. I'm good. And internally, you are crumbling. Mentally, you are on a tear. Emotionally, you are at your lowest. And these are the things that I was referencing earlier of men having high blood pressure, heart attacks, certain things that go on, right? It's stress induced,
Mm.
and it's unfortunate, and then the suicides and things like that. So I always say, yes, they always say it takes a village to raise a kid or children, and that's true. But I also say it takes a village to get through life.
Come on.
It takes a village to get through life, and people want to be loners, and people want to, I gotta get through this. It's just, no, man. Look, man, you need a village, man. I'm not saying that you don't have to be a big one, but you need one,
Yeah.
and a real one,
Yeah.
right? Not just the people who's going to be there for the parties and the going out and stuff like that. That's cool. But how many times you probably been out with somebody out there, having a good time with somebody, and they're depressed. They're smiling with you, watching the games or partying, whatever it is y'all doing. Y'all everybody smile, having a good time. They go home and cry themselves to sleep.
Yeah. And let me add something to that. So
Please.
my wife is in school to become a chiropractor. Um, so she has had to get intimately uh, aware with how bodily systems work. I had no idea chiropractors get pretty much the exact same training that medical doctors get.
Uh-huh.
And so what she has been learning is how our emotions, good or bad, how they specifically affect pieces of our health. Like when she sees a patient, she'll ask them before she even touches their body, "How are you doing?" If they say I'm okay, she said, "Okay, your body's gonna tell me the truth." When she starts touching that body and manipulating those muscles and listening to the cues that the body is giving, she can go back and say, "Your body is telling me something different. What's going on?" So all of those "I'm okays" that we are heaping upon ourselves, bro, that mess is killing us with a quickness. So I don't, man, listen, if it will keep me alive, I never have to be okay.
Mm, mm.
I just want to, I'm at a point in my life, dude, where I have to be honest about how I'm feeling to
Yes.
somebody,
Yes.
to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And for the brothers who are listening, for the sisters who are listening, if you don't have somebody, you need to find somebody with the quickness, because that somebody that you find might be that somebody that helps you take the next breath of your life.
Mm. That's powerful. And that's powerful. And you know, the one thing that you said earlier about your wife, um, and big shout out to her for giving you a safe space, because I believe in our friendships and in our relationships and in marriages, there has to be a safe space to be given. And also, what I see online sometimes is when women go and they go, "Oh well, if he can't tell me how he's feeling, I'm not going to babysit him. He's a grown man." Blah 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 blah. I see it. I
Mm-hmm.
see it all the time. But the fact that she would sit with you in a silent place till you're ready to open up, that in and of itself is enough to get a man to open up. Because in your thinking process, it's like, okay, this woman is literally sitting here with me in my uncomfortable place,
Mm-hmm.
waiting for me to be vulnerable, to express, and to be transparent. That is powerful, man. And that is irreplaceable. And I'm glad you have those brothers too, because I always tell this to my guy friends. Yo, it's cool to do the party thing. It's cool to, games, football, like sports, barbershop talk, that. Cool. But we gotta tap in on a different level. Like we gotta talk about real things.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense to go out and have fun like at all if we can't talk about honest and real things that
Yeah.
might be uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? Like you can come over here and sit in my place and have a beer or a drink or whatever the case is, and you don't feel comfortable to talk about anything.
Yeah.
That's a problem. I'd rather you talk to me than me looking at you in a box.
Yep.
And if I can't get the help for you, I'll refer. I'll do some Google searches with you. I'll try to see if we can get you into therapy. I'll refer you to therapists. I'll
Mm-hmm.
do whatever it takes
Mm-hmm.
for you to get the help that you need. That is beyond me. And I think those are the kind of safe spaces that we need. And I'm so glad that you have it, from a brother perspective, from a man perspective too, um, because that's powerful to have good men behind you. That's
Mm-hmm.
powerful. Um, so speaking of your lovely wife, right? Married 20 years. You're a
That's right.
veteran. You're a veteran in the game, right? First question is, why marriage? I like to skim online from time to time, and I see things. I see men. I see what they write. And a lot of men say, "Oh, like there's no reward for men to be married. Like that's really women get all the benefits. There's no benefits for us to get married." I see it online. I see the comments. I see on the blogs. I see it all whenever I try to skim. Um, so why marriage for you? What was it about, your lovely wife now of 20 years to say that one, I want to get married. I want it. What was it about her?
Oh, that's like a whole podcast by itself. So, what I knew about myself was that me being a single person for my entire life, it was not going to work. Um, I wanted to have that one person to love for the rest of my life. Like I knew
Mm,
that that's how I was wired. Um, and over 20 years, she has proven over and over again why she was the one.
mm,
Um, she 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 encourages me to dream. Like,
Mm,
and I could
man.
just stop right there.
Mm,
I could just stop right there. Like, she encourages me to dream. Like, no matter how stressful life is,
mm,
we can talk about our dreams until we're blue in the face.
mm,
Um, she she is my emotional support human. When I can't go to anybody else and cry or rage or feel any other type of emotion, frustration, disappointment, if it's depression, whatever, she stays in that storm with me, man. Like, she stays. And even if she doesn't understand the full gamut of what I'm feeling,
mm.
she doesn't try to fix me. She listens, and she provides the space when I need to just work through it and find the answer within myself. She provides the space for that. I know that at the end of the day, whether it's been a good day or a bad day,
Mm.
I can come home and hug my wife, and the day immediately, all of its grips in me, they leave. And
Wow.
for that moment that I am with my wife, it is me and her, Bonnie and Clyde. We can take on anything, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I know that to some people that's going to sound like pie in the sky marriage stuff, and I don't want it to be twisted for anybody. We have gone through our wars. we
Mm.
we have we have the battle. 20 years does not come easy. It does not come easy. However, 20 years later, he has consistently shown up
Mm.
every day
Wow.
without fail. um 20 years later, I love her now, and I tell her this all the time. I love you now more than I loved you when I stared across the aisle at you 20 years ago and said I do. Because this 20 years, this I love you is built on mountains of hardships and tests and trials and turmoils and triumphs. This 20, this I love you, we earned every bit of it.
Wow. Wow. You do have a way with words. I'm just gonna put that out there. So I can see. I see. I'm on to you. But yeah. And that's the beautiful thing. Because I'm glad that you said it doesn't come without struggles. Um, and I find though and of course every relationship is different based on what those struggles are, right? Um, but the one thing is I like about your honesty is that hey, look, we went through stuff, like and that's important to really put out there because people like, get this Disney idea, right? Oh, the marriage, the wedding, and it's beautiful for a day, and it's a long day, and there's pictures and dancing and food, and it's amazing. But the work starts after that day.
Mm-hmm.
Life begins after that day,
Mm-hmm.
and the benefits of of what you described, right? Of having somebody there who is your ride or die, right? These are benefits, right? And I know a lot of men say, it's not really a benefit. But you just laid out all of the benefits that you have with the woman that you chose,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's also important too for men to start having discernment about the women that they choose. And I'm gonna just put it out there. The views aren't the view. What I'm about to say is not the views of Justin and Bill. I don't want nobody coming at you, but not every woman is a good woman. Everybody not, and we know not every man is a good man. We understand these things, right? But as men, we have to be discerning about the women that we choose. That is our responsibility. that is our accountability, right? To see who's really for us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because not everyone is made equal. Like,
Right.
it's not it, right? And we ended up saying, "Oh, this woman is this woman is that," but you chose, you chose.
Yeah. 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 But even with that, I think it's a little bit deeper because I think within every man and every woman is the potential to be a good man or a good woman. We know life sucks. And the way that we interpret those events and decisions that we've made or the things that have happened to us or the things that have happened for us is going to be different with every person. However, I have seen this and I know you've seen this too. The person that we think is not a good person finds the person that is good for them, and that transformation is miraculous.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what you said, you man, we can't be out here in these streets all willy nilly.
But it happens all the time.
But it, man,
But it happens all the time, right?
but it
It's
happens all the time.
it happens, and there's a thing about being outside, being in the streets, like for men, right? It's like this is what we do, right? But it's a thing of you create things of like broken homes, you create these issues, and then you're like, oh well, I don't need to be present. I don't like the mother. And it's like, fam, bro, you created the family. I'm not saying that you have to stay with the mother, but you have to at least try to create a healthy environment for the child
Right,
to at least co-parent the right way.
right.
Right. And it's like, yeah, but she's this and she's that. Bro, you chose.
Yep.
You chose. And I've talked to people from all walks of life. And no matter and you go through a lot of people go through a lot of crazy things in life. But it's like at some point you have to either get therapy, you gotta start figuring out ways to unpack the things that have happened to you and why you are making these decisions consistently over and over again and getting the same results, right? And that's the accountability piece too, because you got to look at it. It's not easy to go to therapy. People think it's not easy going to therapy because therapy removes the mask of what you think you are, and it
Mm-hmm.
shows you who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that's not easy, not an easy pill for anyone, for men or women. But you got to do it.
And here's the onus for men. Okay, in therapy, you don't hear much about the mother wound, but there are volumes of books about the father wound.
Mm,
Volumes.
mm, mm.
And entire practices are built around exploring the impact, positive or negative, that a father has in a family or with kids.
Wow, true, very true.
That, that by itself should be enough for men to know that we have to take responsibility and we have to be accountable. If we're gonna lay down and make it, then we need to stand there and take it.
That's that's as simple as that. And and again, if we could just be more discerning of the women we choose. And look, there's always going to be room for error. I mean, nothing is ever perfect. You know, um, full transparency. I was married and divorced. I didn't make a family though. I didn't make a baby. That was by choice because I said at least if this is not something that's going to work,
Right.
I I don't want to bring someone into this world,
Yeah.
right? Under those circumstances.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I didn't. But that was my choice.
Yeah.
Discipline, choice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's even with your wife. And that was even with, at the time, my ex-wife. I had to be discerning and saying, okay, look, this is not looking the way I anticipated it and that we thought it was going to be. So it was a choice. I said, look, that's not something that we're going to do right now until we can try to figure this out. Right. Again, choices. I could have easily, obviously, had a kid. And guess what? Right now, it'd be in turmoil. Right. Choices. And having discernment about the choices that you decide to make or not. But I'm glad that you laid out a lot of those things about marriage and it being a help, it being something that's positive for you in your life, because it has been. But you also chose, obviously, very well, right? Yep, yeah, man, yeah, you chose very well. So kudos to you guys. But when it comes to marriage in this sense, in men, so I know men go through a lot of things mentally, emotionally in their marriage, and it may not even have anything to do with their significant other, right? Could be men going through loss of jobs, income. That seems to hit men very hard up here. And so sometimes it could be tough to kind of have those conversations with your wife, with your significant other, the person that you're supposed to be providing for, protecting over. This economy is crazy. They're laying off left and right everywhere, like everywhere. Men are losing jobs, right? Men are losing jobs. Husbands are losing jobs. And sometimes it can be easier to open up to your woman about other things.
Yeah.
Right. Versus the money thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I can open up to you about this, but that is a hard conversation, I think, for men to have with their wife. Of course, depending on who they chose, they might know their wife. So, what advice would you give to a man who's married, as far as broaching the subject of loss of income, job, money, and etc.? Like, what would be the approach that you would tell a man to how to approach a woman when it comes to money and provide? I mean, because that's a real thing.
Well, I think the best answer that I can give is just to be honest. You are where you are. You have what you have, right? But also, if your marriage is a partnership, then there should be an equal commitment to, just because we are where we are right now doesn't mean that we're going to stay here.
True.
And I mean, in all honesty, I've been the only one working since my wife has been in school. I'm a teacher. So take from that what you will, right? And I mean, we've had to have some hard conversations, man. I mean, we've been through a bankruptcy, and there will always be a moment of reckoning. Either you can bring it on, and therefore have some control over how it responds to your life, or you can ignore it and allow it to wreak all kind of havoc in your life. I had to grow into facing it. And, I'm not gonna lie, that is an area of life where my insecurities always like to rear their heads. Because as a man, I want to be that provider. My wife and my kids deserve to have the best. And when I can't provide the best for them, then that reflects negatively on me as a man. I started a life coaching practice as a means of being of service to people, to men, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
also because I wanted to bring in some extra income,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Of course.
I, you know, wrote a book, written a couple of ebooks because I had them on my heart, yeah, but also because I wanted to find a way to bring in some extra income,
Absolutely.
right? Um, but some of that also stems from a place that I know is still kind of broken within me, where I identify my ability to be a provider by how much money I'm bringing in.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand it and I realize it, and it's something that I can work on. If we're not willing to be honest about it and really look at where it comes from, then we don't even have a jumping off point to have those conversations. Like,
Mm.
you talked about being discerning when we're fooling with other people. But when's the last time we were discerning about ourselves?
Facts. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I have always known that I've always liked to have money. Like when my wife and I were dating, it wasn't nothing for me like to just slip her, $20, $100. Like that wasn't nothing, right?
Right.
But as kids come and as life comes,
Mm.
and in those seasons when life is just lifing,
Mm.
and like you don't know where that next meal is going to come from, much
Mm.
less I can't afford to take my wife out on a date. Like what is this? What kind of man am I? Right? Um,
Mm.
and you start looking on social media and you seeing all these cats doing all this stuff for your wife. Then you have to come back. Then you got to come back. What kind of man am I?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Am I the man where my things are all that I have to offer? Or am I a man where who I am is enough for what they need?
Mm.
Because it is repeatedly coming back to that statement of authenticity that who I am is enough, regardless of materially what I have to offer anybody. Who I am
Mm-hmm.
is enough,
Mm.
regardless of whether I can take my wife on a cruise. Who I am is enough, regardless of whether I can buy my kids name brand clothes and shoes. Who I am is enough, and
Mm.
that authenticity is going to come to bear 100-fold, exponentially, so that when I'm finally able to do what I want to do, and notice I said when I'm finally able, not an if, it
When.
has no choice but to come, a when. When I'm finally able to provide, I've already laid the foundations that who I am is not based on what's in my wallet. My wallet can be fat, my wallet could be fat. It don't matter.
Mm.
Who I am is enough. What I can do for you, that is just cherries on top of a delicious sundae. But
Mm.
who I am, that's the basis for everything.
I love that. I love that. And it's interesting because I always feel like, or always felt that when you have emotional intelligence and you are secure and you have other tools in the tool belt to offer your spouse, because some men don't even have the emotional intelligence to support a woman or mentally, emotionally, or try to understand you know, what they're going through. It's like, yo, here's some, bills paid, good, bye, right? But, and then the problem with it is when they lose their income or their job or whatever it is that they have going on, they don't know how to operate
Mm-hmm.
in the relationship. So they sabotage it. Um, so I've always felt that somebody, who loves emotional intelligence, like I love emotional intelligence, mental health, emotional issues, like I can navigate. I have a lot of tools in my tool belt, as do you, to navigate those waters. But man, it is still hard, even when you have those tools in the tool belt, that when that money starts to get different, you feel, even when you got the tools for other things, you still feel so different.
Mm-hmm.
And those thoughts start coming in your head, in your
Mm-hmm.
mind, about who you are as a man. And it can drive you crazy because those thoughts become louder.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
longer the drought is, the louder the louder it becomes. And you're thinking, man, but I got all these other tools. Well, I know that I can support my wife in this way or my girl in this way, and I can do other things. And you can have a great person, great wife, great girl who like, yeah, I'm good over here with this. Just keep providing the emotional stuff and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It's still in your head.
Yeah.
It messes with you. And that's innately just the whole thing about manhood, about providership, and how that's so deeply ingrained in who we are that when that doesn't happen, it tears us up on the inside a lot. Um, but you mentioned coaching. And of course, you started it to be a help, and I'm a certified life coach as well. So we do share that something else that we share in common. So why coaching? Because some people feel like life coaching is just this easy thing, and I'm like, man, life coaching is work. Like it's taxing. It's not what you think. Like it takes a lot of energy, emotionally, mentally. It's not just snap your fingers, we having a conversation, and that's it. Like it's other things involved, right? So why coaching for you?
I think for me, I have always operated from a mode of operation where I want to cheer people on and coach them up. So like I want to come beside people and be your biggest encourager. Like I'm an encourager, man. Like that for me, like seeing that light come on for somebody when you just give
Yes.
them, man, that is like nothing that you'll ever experience in your life. But also in that, as I am being your biggest cheerleader and encouraging you, I also want to challenge you to not stay where you are. Like there's always another level. And so as I kind of began to rationalize, you know, what I eventually want my life to look like, I want to spend my time helping people by providing that encouragement, but also by giving them the tools that I've accumulated over life, that I'm still accumulating as I keep living. But I want to give people the tools to be able to do this stuff on their own, like to realize that their limiting beliefs are holding them back, but there are ways to destroy those, like by telling people, by forcing people to look at the narratives that they've been living their life out, the stories that they keep telling themselves, and like, okay, break that down. Is that actually what the real is? Or is that something that you've been telling yourself for a long time because of how you've lived your life or what somebody else has told you? Right.
Right.
And man, I'm convinced that we are the biggest reason why we are not where we want to be.
Wow.
Is not the man that's keeping me back. It's Justin. It's me. It is how I'm thinking about stuff. It's the stories that I'm telling myself. It's the stuff that I'm allowing myself to believe. It's the baggage that I'm continuing to allow myself to carry. And man, if something that I say or do can provide some type of peace for anybody so that they can see themselves clearly when they look in the mirror and see every possibility of what their life can be like, all you got to do is just choose a path. And then set that compass for it, and then just go for it, man. That's why coaching became the thing for me that I felt like I would get the most life bang for my buck. And so, like once I kind of set my direction there, then the podcast kind of came out of that, because it allows me to, even if they're not paying me for a session, for me, publishing that weekly podcast is like, this is your one-on-one session with me. I can talk to you. I may never meet you. You know what I'm saying? However, regardless of what any piece of data tells me, you're not just a piece of an analytic. You're a person who's taken the time to sit for a 30-minute session with me where I can tell you, yes, you're great, but you can be greater. But let me tell you how to get there. So that's why coaching for me, man. It's to cheer people on, but it's also to coach them up.
I love that. And you wrote some books. Let's talk about it. What are some of your books about? And where can we get these books?
So the first book that I published, my timing is just impeccable because I published this book and then the world shut down. It was like I published the book right the day before, or maybe hours before, the word came down. Hide your kids, hide your wives. Here comes the Rona. Stay in your house. But this first book is it was called Slaying the Lion, Hunt What Is Hunting You. And it's a faith-based book because I'm also a minister. But it's a faith-based book with the premise that God has given us the power to hunt down and destroy the things that we have spent all of our lives running from. And it's based on a story in the Bible, I believe it's the book of Second Kings, I may be wrong, of a guy named Benaiah who was walking on a snowy day, saw this lion. Instead of allowing this lion to run away, he tracked this lion down into a dark pit and he killed it. Now, anybody else in their right mind finds a lion, they're going to run from it, right? He had the presence of mind and the courage to understand that if he did not deal with this lion could hurt other people, or this lion could come back and hurt him. Uh-huh. We've spent so much time running from lions in our lives, lions of insecurity, lions of all these different things, that God has given us the power, the authority to slay. And so that's what this book is about. It's available on Amazon. And yeah, that's my baby. That's my baby. Also, a few months ago, I released an ebook called Soaring Confidence. And in it are 4 steps to building the type of confidence that allows you to just soar, like to fly to wherever you want to in life. Like, so many people don't have confidence. I was one of those people that could not find my own confidence to save my life. Like, if you put me in confidence in a bucket in a brightly lit room, I would still have been blind to where my confidence was. And so, using these 4 steps, they helped me to obliterate the limiting beliefs, to really see myself, just to accept who I was, but also to resolve to not stay there. And like I said, it's about doing the work. It's really about doing the work. And then my other ebook is about, it's just called Hello Water Walker. And it's an invitation to people to get out of the boats, to get out of the comfort zones of our lives, and to just dare to believe that the first step you take outside of your comfort zone, outside of that boat, could be the very miracle that gets you on with the rest of your life. And so those books are available. I have like a PayHip store where I have a course on confidence. I have some different free resources for people to receive. But yeah, man, I look for ways to help people. A lot of it's through the lens of what I've had to overcome, but I want people to be better. Just like I want for my kids. We want our kids to be better. And if I can help people skip steps, then that's it. Whether I get paid for it or not, I don't care. The compensation for me is knowing that at the end of my life, I've impacted people.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. We kind of share that in common as well. You're jack of all trades here. You mentioned also minister. So you a teacher, right? Coach, minister, right? So what was your call? Like, how did you know that you were called to be a minister? Like, what was that process for you? Um, being a teacher, of course, you're an educator. So I guess that part comes naturally, right?
Okay, yeah, it came naturally, but it's something that I ran from, dude. Like
mm,
coming out of undergrad, um, I was a music major, vocal performance. I've done opera, um, and I had opportunities fresh out of undergrad to take over prestigious programs. But I told these people I don't like kids like that. Like I want to become the next big music sensation. Like that's where my brain was.
mm-hmm,
Um, however, however, I have an MBA in human resource management. I did that for 7 years, got burnt out. And I think that was God just kind of saying, dude, this is not what I have for you.
wow,
For this season, I want you to go, I want you to teach. That was 10 years ago. I quit a job in human resources, worked at Walgreens for 2 years.
mm-hmm,
On the 2 year anniversary of when I left my job, I got my first teaching job. Um, the preaching thing, literally, I heard God in my head whispering for me to preach for a year before I finally gave into it. And that probably sounds weird, but that's quite literally what happened to me. In my family line, I have, pastors and teachers. And
mm-hmm,
so everybody else could look at me and see it. Um, but I didn't trust anybody to speak it
mm,
over me until I knew it for myself. Um, so yeah, it's you know, I've not always been trustworthy, but I've been fortunate in that, God's entrusted me with some things and with some people. And
yeah.
I want to be a good steward of it. I'm not always going to get it right. I know God looks at me and like shakes his head like, man, that boy, my gosh. But as gracious and as merciful as he's been to me, with the people that he's placed in my life and the times that he's helped me get back on my feet, I want to spend the rest of my life pouring into people in the same fashion, man.
I love that. And just the last question is, how has faith been an impact in your life?
It's been everything. Ah, man, I'm in a season of life right now where my wife and I are believing for some really big things. Um, and if I did not know that God existed, I don't know how I would live. Uh,
Mm,
we've been through ruts, like ruts. And if I could not look in the Bible and say out loud, I will remain confident in this, that I will see your goodness, God, in the land of the living. I don't have to wait till heaven for all the good things.
mm,
There's going to be some good things that happen here on earth.
mm,
Um, if I did not have the confidence to know, man, that God is real and that he has a plan for all of the mess that we walk through.
mm,
If I hadn't seen him redeem my mistakes and help me to become who I am, I probably would be just nuts, just out of my mind crazy by now.
mm,
Faith, faith has been everything. It is by faith in God that I wake up in the morning. It's by faith in God that I live through the day. It's by faith in God that I lay down and believe that tomorrow's going to be a better day. It's by faith in God that I can look at a bad situation and believe that it can become good.
mm,
It's by faith that I can, have a conversation with you and believe that this message is going to hit exactly the right person that it needs to hit in just the
mm,
right spot that it's going to hit them. So, man, for me, faith is everything, and that's the only thing. Um,
mm.
I mean, I'm on Sunday. I'm going to New Mexico to speak at a youth conference for probably 700, 800, 900 kids. And I have been praying for an opportunity to do this conference for like 3, 4 years.
Wow.
Somebody couldn't do it this year, so they're giving me a shot. Faith.
You gonna kill it, man. You gonna
That's
kill it,
faith.
man.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
That's amazing. Congratulations on this opportunity. I know that it won't go to waste, and I know that you will impact many lives, young people's lives, in which they need that, especially in this day and age. Um, so just tell the people, where they can find you, the podcast, where they can listen, your socials, just give people how they can connect with you, collaborate with you, and hire you for future speaking engagements, so yeah, man. So tell them where they can find you, brother.
All right. So primarily, you can find me at _JD Speaks on Instagram. My podcast, the Pep Talk podcast, it's available everywhere. Apple, Spotify, Google. We're always looking for listeners.
Of course.
I just started it in January, so we're up to episode 25, and I'm
Congratulations.
the consistency of it is what I'm loving. I'm loving the consistency of it. But you can find it wherever you find podcasts. I always pray that it's a blessing to people. You can email me at the peppodcast@gmail.com for speaking engagements, or even if it's just to ask me a question. Man, I love people. I'm an introvert, but I'm also an extrovert because I love people too much. So let's connect. And T-Till, man, you're family now, dude. You are officially family. So I look forward to having you on my podcast to get more about your story, man.
Listen, you already know I'm there. Just let me know when and where, and I'll come on anytime. But I think you're doing some amazing things. So we're gonna drop the links to the books. When this airs, definitely want people to go out there and support those books and support this amazing person, because he wears many hats. Minister, author, coach, teacher, father, husband, right? And he's also a son. Wearing many hats, and so definitely we want to make sure that we get the message out about all the amazing things that you're doing. If you're looking for a life coach, please, definitely hit up Justin too. There's no egos here. I'm a coach, but I love when people have a passion for it. Definitely hit up Justin, book him. Listen, this ain't nothing free. I want people to be clear, because sometimes people, no, we can, no. Invest in yourself. Invest in yourself.
Say it with the chest.
Yeah, and invest in yourself. And when you book, it's gonna cost something. You go to, hey, it is what it is. So I just want people to be on the right side of that. If you're gonna go correct, go book. And definitely for all speaking engagements, he is available, please. You know what I'm saying? He's got a lot of good stuff to say. He has a heart of gold, heart for people. And those are the kind of people we want to see win in life. So again, appreciate you for coming on the show and sharing your story, and all the insight you have to fatherhood, manhood, marriage, and everything in between. Definitely appreciate you, man. Thank you.
I'm honored to be here with you, man. Like I said, I don't believe this connection was an accident. So I look forward to collabing and seeing what good we can put out into the world, man.
100%. This has been another episode of Conversations of the Heart. Once again, as always, it is your boy T-Till with my guy here, Justin Belt. See y'all next week. Peace.